While progressing in life, at times we feel stuck due to the lack of knowledge of how to manage our time well. Deciding how to prioritize the different facets of daily self management gets hectic, whether it's for school students, university students, or working people. The lack of motivation, a great amount of workload, and the expectations at the academic front, in college, or at one's workplace is draining for an individual. Under such circumstances, a helping hand can instruct and support us in setting the right direction for our goals. At MentorMitr, we engage with individuals wherever they are in their journey of career development and help them learn life skills to manage complex situations while enhancing their potential and performance to optimum. Our involvement helps individuals to set the right goals and create options by following an objective process, thereby enabling them to define and manage their priorities. We help them generate self-awareness and teach them how to prioritize their time effectively. We also enhance their emotional quotient with techniques like mind mapping and dealing with success and failure to reinforce their goals and processes, while also grooming them with soft skills that are necessary for the competitive selection process, thus making them confident and prepared for success. While progressing in life, at times we feel stuck due to the lack of knowledge of how to manage our time well. Deciding how to prioritize the different facets of daily self management gets hectic, whether it's for school students, university students, or working people. The lack of motivation, a great amount of workload, and the expectations at the academic front, in college, or at one's workplace is draining for an individual. Under such circumstances, a helping hand can instruct and support us in setting the right direction for our goals. At MentorMitr, we engage with individuals wherever they are in their journey of career development and help them learn life skills to manage complex situations while enhancing their potential and performance to optimum. Our involvement helps individuals to set the right goals and create options by following an objective process, thereby enabling them to define and manage their priorities. We help them generate self-awareness and teach them how to prioritize their time effectively. We also enhance their emotional quotient with techniques like mind mapping and dealing with success and failure to reinforce their goals and processes, while also grooming them with soft skills that are necessary for the competitive selection process, thus making them confident and prepared for success. While progressing in life, at times we feel stuck due to the lack of knowledge of how to manage our time well. Deciding how to prioritize the different facets of daily self management gets hectic, whether it's for school students, university students, or working people. The lack of motivation, a great amount of workload, and the expectations at the academic front, in college, or at one's workplace is draining for an individual. Under such circumstances, a helping hand can instruct and support us in setting the right direction for our goals. At MentorMitr, we engage with individuals wherever they are in their journey of career development and help them learn life skills to manage complex situations while enhancing their potential and performance to optimum. Our involvement helps individuals to set the right goals and create options by following an objective process, thereby enabling them to define and manage their priorities. We help them generate self awareness and teach them how to prioritize their time effectively. We also enhance their emotional quotient with techniques like mind mapping and dealing with success and failure to reinforce their goals and processes, while also grooming them with soft skills that are necessary for the competitive selection process, thus, making them confident and prepared for success. While progressing in life, at times we feel stuck due to the lack of knowledge of how to manage our time well. Deciding how to prioritize the different facets of daily self management gets hectic, whether it's for school students, university students, or working people. The lack of motivation, a great amount of workload, and the expectations at the academic front, in college, or at one's workplace is draining for an individual. Under such circumstances, a helping hand can instruct and support us in setting the right direction for our goals. At MentorMitr, we engage with individuals wherever they are in their journey of career development and help them learn life skills to manage complex situations while enhancing their potential and performance to optimum. Our involvement helps individuals to set the right goals and create options by following an objective process, thereby enabling them to define and manage their priorities. We help them generate self awareness and teach them how to prioritize their time effectively. We also enhance their emotional quotient with techniques like mind mapping and dealing with success and failure to reinforce their goals and processes, while also grooming them with soft skills that are necessary for the competitive selection process, thus, making them confident and prepared for success. While progressing in life, at times we feel stuck due to the lack of knowledge of how to manage our time well. Deciding how to prioritize the different facets of daily self management gets hectic, whether it's for school students, university students, or working people. The lack of motivation, a great amount of workload, and the expectations at the academic front, in college, or at one's workplace is draining for an individual. Under such circumstances, a helping hand can instruct and support us in setting the right direction for our goals. At MentorMitr, we engage with individuals wherever they are in their journey of career development and help them learn life skills to manage complex situations while enhancing their potential and performance to optimum. Our involvement helps individuals to set the right goals and create options by following an objective process, thereby enabling them to define and manage their priorities. We help them generate self awareness and teach them how to prioritize their time effectively. We also enhance their emotional quotient with techniques like mind mapping and dealing with success and failure to reinforce their goals and processes, while also grooming them with soft skills that are necessary for the competitive selection process, thus, making them confident and prepared for success.
Before we begin with the webinar, I would like to go over the steps to avail the e-certificate. The steps to avail the e-certificate are as follows. You are required to attend the full webinar. Once you see the thank you displayed on the screen, there will appear a link to the Google attendance form in the chat box. Click to mark your attendance and get the feedback form emailed. Fill the questionnaire that you receive on your mail for the details and follow our page on Instagram and Facebook. If the above steps are followed, an e-certificate will be automatically mailed to you. Let us start off with an introduction of MentorMitr. MentorMitr is a mentoring organization. Our aim is to guide students who are in school and colleges, as well as working professionals, in the areas of goal setting, stress management, time management, enhancing emotional intelligence, and providing soft skills and grooming. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to today's webinar on how emotionally intelligent are you. The session will be led by two established professionals, Mr. Shivam and Mr. Anil Sharma. Please feel free to leave your questions in the chat box and we will try to answer them. Now, I would like to introduce our first speaker for the evening, Mr. Shivam. Mr. Shivam is the author of two self help books, How to Unleash Your True Potential and Finding the Magic in You, and a certified emotional intelligence life coach. With a master's degree in aerospace engineering, Shivam has always been curious about the why of things, and he is on the journey to make people aware of their emotions and their life.
Mr. Shivam, we'd like to request you to speak now.
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining in for the session on the importance of emotional intelligence and do you have a good emotional intelligence for that matter. So, emotional intelligence, like we know of it, is all about understanding or being intelligent by the way you use your emotions, or being intelligent the way you actually use your emotions in any particular sphere of life, be it your career, be it your relationships, or be it your personal life for that matter, about your own goals and hobbies and passion. So, emotional intelligence is all about knowing all of those parts, and we'll talk about some other aspects of emotional intelligence and what are the things that needs to be taken care of for that matter. So, the first thing that I want to ask you is, do you know someone with great confidence but with zero empathy? I think you might have seen a lot of cases like that. And have you ever witnessed any someone like that in your school or college or in your office as well? Someone has a very good intellectual skills, but still having very low empathy. How is that person? Ideally, the kind of person we're talking about, the kind of person that we are uh, denoting here as a person with a very less empathy but a great confidence and intelligence, they are intellectuals, they are contributing something to society, but still at any particular point of time they suffer a lot with their relationships, they suffer a lot with the way they handle their own emotions for that matter, because the relationship you have with yourself actually becomes the stepping stone for how your relationship is with others as well. So it's important for us to be able to understand that part, to be able to find a middle ground, if not being the extreme of both situations, to be able to know where your confidence comes, where your understanding comes, where intelligence comes, and also knowing where those emotions are coming from. And this is what emotional intelligence is in very simplest forms: to be able to know what you're feeling, to be able to know what you're doing at any particular point of time, and to be able to understand whatever you're doing at whatever we're working upon in any sphere of life. So, like written here as well, that this denotes low emotional intelligence. That means a person who has very low empathy, he could actually be contributing a lot to the society. He could actually be building bridges and doing a lot of things in a particular manner. And I'll give a very small example that you might have heard of, something that you might have seen in a lot of TV series and a lot of episodes as well. That there's always a psychopath in various TV series who is a very intelligent person. With Sherlock, who even has hard time catching him. Moriarty, for that matter, he's a very intellectual person. He's an intelligent person, and yet when it comes to contributing something to the society, when it comes to adding something to society, to be able to become a good member of the society, he is not able to fit into that definition, even because even without, even with his intellectual skills. That means there's something lacking here. The thing that is lacking here is empathy, kindness, and emotional intelligence. And this is why we need emotional intelligence. And talking in the general aspect of it, emotional intelligence is not only about contributing to the society, it's also about contributing to yourself, being honest to yourself. Because trust me, I am emotional. You are emotional, and everyone in this world is emotional. That means if I ever say that I don't feel sad, or I don't feel anxious, I don't feel stressed at any particular point of time, I would be lying, because I do feel all of these things. Yes, the way I react to those emotions could be different from the way others react. The way I react to certain other things could be very different from the way others react. The reaction to those emotions changes, but not the emotions. That means the emotions I feel is the same emotion that you feel, but the reaction I am giving to it, or the reaction someone else is giving to it, is very different, are very different from each other. So we have to actually understand that emotions are natural for everyone else, but not the reaction. And we must work upon understanding our reaction. We must work upon understanding how we can control those reactions to be able to do things with much more passion and much more interest. Right. So this is another question as well. What are the different ways you react? And do you often feel that you should not have reacted in a particular way only after expressing your emotions? And I think that's a very common thing that we see in a lot of places, in a lot of things, and in our personal life as well. That when we feel angry, what is the normal thing that we do? Whenever we feel angry, the only uh, acceptable, yeah, acceptable is not the right word to say it, but the only acceptable way to actually express your anger is by shouting at someone, or to be judgmental of that particular person, or to be able to shout, or to be able to verbally abuse someone. But we know for a fact that it is not right. We know for a fact that it is hampering our relationship, and we know for a fact that it is not good for our own personal and mental space. But yet, whenever we feel angry, we do the same kind of things. We verbally abuse someone, we shout at someone, we even end up torturing ourselves as well. And that is not the right way to do that. But yet, why do we keep on doing the same thing over and over again? That is actually a very important example of how emotions can trick us into doing things we are accustomed of. And this is all about habits for that matter. Whenever we do things that feel habitual, that are habitual to us, we end up doing that without actually thinking about any rational aspect to it. For example, a very simple example for that matter, a lot of you here would be right-handed or left-handed, right? So if you're a right-handed person, when you wake up in the morning and when you go to the washroom, you pick up your brush, and you pick up your brush from your right hand. You don't pick it from left hand, right? Because you're right-handed, you're used to picking the brush from the right hand. And when you pick the brush from the right hand, you automatically get attached to the factor that you have to pick it from the right hand because you're so much habituated to it. Now, I would want you to give one activity here. Tomorrow, when you wake up in the morning, try to pick the brush from your left hand, and then try to see how hard that feels. Would it be hard for you to be able to actually pick the brush from your left hand? And not only picking, start brushing your teeth with the left hand. It will be a big task for you. And this is the same as trying to change your tasks, trying to change how you deal with certain things. Because whenever we feel angry, our automated response system is to shout at someone, because we feel defensive, we feel scared, and we shout at someone. That's how we express our anger. And to be able to change how we react to that anger, we need to change certain way of our actions. And to be able to change our actions, we have to be alert, we have to first be aware of what is the harm that it is doing to us. Because expressing anger is in a negative manner is so much common in this world that we feel that it is a very natural way of living life. But yet we don't understand that it is actually harming us, it is actually harming our prospects of becoming a good person, or just trying to do things in a positive manner. So it's important to understand that we have to control how we react to things. It's important to control how we react to certain emotion for that matter, how we react to our anxiety, how we react to our sadness, how we react to our happiness. Because when you talk about the whole idea of happiness or sadness, or the positive emotion or a negative emotion, there are no such positive or negative emotions for that matter. Emotions are all emotions. Emotions are emotions for a particular reason. They are the way they are. The reaction to them are positive or negative. The reaction to them end up feeling positive or negative to us. And hence we must work upon the reaction part, not the emotion part, because emotions would be natural for me, for you, for everyone else. So we must work upon understanding those things. We must work upon how we express and how we understand those particular part, so that we can deal with things in a much better manner. So that was the part about how you can definitely react. So these are the four different traits of emotional intelligence that I usually work upon with my clients, with my coaching clients. That I talk about a lot about self-awareness, self-management, relationship management, and social awareness. Now, it has to go hand in hand, and it has to always start from self awareness. So, unless and until you understand what you are, who you are, where you come from, what are the things that are driving you wouldn't be able to know what path you want to choose. You wouldn't be able to know what is the thing that you love the most, what is the kind of person you actually enjoy spending time with, or what are the career prospects you might actually invest in. So the first thing to all of those questions would be being aware of yourself. And this is actually a very sad thing, to be honest. But a lot of us, a lot, in fact, including me, I too failed a lot of times miserably in my initial years. I mean, let's say 5 or 6 years back or 7 years back, I failed miserably on the act of understanding myself better. Because when I talk about the idea of understanding myself better, I always used to believe that whatever I'm thinking, whatever I'm believing, that has to be right, because that is the way we are taught things. We have always been taught things that whatever you're thinking, whatever you're believing in, they are right. Everything else is wrong. So when I think of a particular thing, when I think in a particular kind of belief, so whatever, if I start seeing or start questioning my particular belief, or start questioning my own thought, I would end up believing that no, my thought is right, my belief is right, and everyone else's belief is wrong. Everyone else's belief is wrong, and that is a way I stop myself from learning. So this is the important part here, that self-awareness is all about rewiring your neurons. It's all about rewiring your belief system, rewiring your thoughts, and to be able to reach a stage where you can say to yourself that all my thoughts, or my thoughts that I generally believe in, are not always right. That means if I believe in something, that means if I think of a particular thing, it doesn't mean that it is right. It just means that it is a piece of information that has come to my mind because of the people I have interacted with. So all of you might have seen that movie Jurwa, right? I believe Jurwa was a very popular movie for Salman Khan. I think Varun Dhawan also did another similar movie. So in that Jurwa movie, there were two people. There was the person who was brought up in a very rich and a very posh family, and there was another person, the same brother, who was brought up in a different, very different platform altogether. And yet, they being twin brothers, they had a very different way of looking at things. They had a very different way of looking at the reality of life. That means our conditioning plays a very important role in how we see things. And it doesn't make things right or wrong, it just makes things in that particular perception. So we have to be alert of that particular belief. We have to be alert of our conditioning, our beliefs, our thoughts, and whatever we are believing or thinking upon, so that we are able to change, we are able to work upon things in our own personal growth. Because if you become the same person, if you are the same person every day in your life, you would not be growing. So change is a very important factor of it as well. So it's important to know that everything deserves to be changed, everything needs to be changed, and with that change comes growth, comes personal growth. And if you flow along that change, you would be able to enjoy that process as well. So that is where self-awareness comes into picture. If you're not self-aware, you would always have a hard time getting out of your comfort zone. You would always have a hard time uh, seeking validation from people. You'd always have a hard time trying to you would always have a hard time when people maybe point out some mistakes in you, or whenever you always have a hard time when you fail at some point of your life, because that is the point you will start questioning yourself, and that is the point you might even start hating yourself. But self-awareness gives you that particular idea that you don't need to hate yourself, you just need to understand yourself better. So that is a very important part. The other part that I told you before as well, that all things are very much connected to each other. The part about self management is all about understanding and then implementing those things. Now how does self management happen? It happens by changing our habits, it happens by understanding our habits. Like I gave you a very small example that you can try tomorrow as well, that if you pick your if you're a right-handed person, try picking your brush tomorrow from your left hand, and that will be a small change in your habitual style. And this small change in habit can actually make you see things in a very wider perspective, right? And that wider perspective of things can actually maybe change your life altogether, because you would see things from very different perspective now. So all our habits define us. Whatever are the habits we are practicing on a day-to-day life, those small habits are actually defining the course of our life. That means if we need to change ourselves, if we need to change ourselves for good, we need to look at our habits closely. We need to look at things that are stopping us from being what we want. and then maybe shuffle them, or maybe play along with them, so that we're able to work upon things in a better way. The third thing is relationship management. I think another important part, like I discussed in the previous part as well, that the relationship you have with yourself marks the beginning of the relationship you have with others. That means if you have good relationship with yourself, that means if you have good awareness and understanding of yourself, you'd be able to understand your partners well as well. You'd be able to have a good relationship with your partners as well, and your relationships will be smooth. So if you have your relationships very tipsy and curvy, and you feel that, oh, I don't deserve him, or he doesn't deserve me, and many various types of questions come into your head, chances are that you're not very much aware about your own personality. And it's important to be actually emotionally intelligent about those particular parts. The last part about social awareness. Social awareness is all about interacting with others as well, to be able to know that everyone in this world is different, is unique, and we cannot change that. We cannot get rid of the differences. We cannot get rid of the difference that people have, but we can understand them, we can own them, and we can use them to our advantage. That means when we start understanding that everyone is different, everyone is carrying their own set of uh, happiness, everyone is carrying their own set of excitement and their benefits, and also they are carrying their own set of flaws, including me, including you. So the moment we start understanding that, we're able to be much more empathic towards them. And the moment we start being much more empathic towards them, we automatically build trust among them. And the moment we start building trust, people would start listening to us, we would start listening to them, and our social bonding would automatically increase. So these are different types of different traits of emotional intelligence that needs to be worked upon. It takes time, it takes a lot of understanding, and getting some professional help, or getting trying to read about that particular thing, trying to practice those things, it definitely helps a lot. So these are the 4 traits that you can definitely practice. Can you change the next slide? Okay. So how to develop EI? Now that's the last part of it. That how to actually develop emotional intelligence. So like we discussed before as well, that the way to develop emotional intelligence is by knowing yourself well, and knowing your emotions, knowing what your emotions are trying to tell you. So the very basic aspect of it is, what are your emotions trying to tell you? So if you are anxious, you have to present in front of the entire class. You have to do something new today. And you're very anxious. Your feet are getting numb. Your hands are getting sweaty. You're feeling short of breath. So rather than, or instead of fixing all your attention towards those physical changes, you start focusing, start understanding that this anxiousness, this physical sensations are trying to tell me that I'm going to try something new in my life. And this is why I'm feeling anxious. Rather than trying to feel that I'm feeling anxious, that means that I'm not worthy. I'm feeling anxious, that means that I cannot do well. I'm feeling anxious because I feel that I would not get that job, I would not get that presentation right. So rather than trying to blame ourselves for it, we have to understand that what is the emotion trying to tell you. So it is completely okay, it's completely fine to change how we talk to ourselves about that particular emotion, because that emotion is trying to tell you something. Happiness tells you something. When you're feeling happy, why are you happy? Because everything, all your emotional needs are met. That is when you feel happy. When your emotional needs are not met, you feel sad. When you see a tiger in front of you, you feel fear. So that's a very common way of looking at things. And when you didn't qualify the interview, you will feel sad, you'll feel fearful. So those things are very common. Just try to get to the root of the emotion that you're feeling, and then try to understand that these emotions are not trying to pinch you, these emotions not trying to uh, uh, label you as something, as a loser or a or winner or anything for that matter. These emotions are trying to tell you something. Try to get to the root of that particular reason, try to get to the root of that particular meaning, and your life would change significantly. I have done a lot of videos in that particular part as well. A lot of my videos are there on the YouTube channel as well. You can search it by Shivam now. And I have done a lot of video on emotional intelligence about how to build that emotional resilience. So you can work upon that as well. Again, the thing that I was talking before as well, that know your habits. So what are some of the habits that you keep on clinging to? And what are some of the patterns that keep pulling you back? Know them better. So the moment you understand that these are things that stop me from growing, these are small things that maybe I keep on bringing fight with my partner even when it is not needed. These things are not building my relationship in a better manner. Even though it's not needed, but I feel the urge to fight with him or fight with her. Where is that coming from? Where is that habit or pattern coming from? Maybe from some insecurity, maybe some deep rooted belief. Try to question that. Try to change that slowly and steadily. It's not a one day thing. It's never a wonder thing. Even the thing about brushing your teeth with the left hand, it's not going to happen in one day. For example, if you pick up the brush from the left hand tomorrow, it's not going to become a habit for you in just one day. You will have to do the same thing for the continuously. Is it not audible now?
No, it is audible. It is audible.
All right. Yeah. So yeah, that's the thing I'm saying, that we have to understand that we have to constantly work on a particular thing. We have to constantly work upon doing things in that particular manner, so that we are able to bring upon that change, bring about that habitual change in our life. And small habits that we do consistently in our life, they change our life in a very significant manner. So try to work upon those habits, try to work upon those patterns, and your life would change. It takes time, but it is something that is really wonderful. And this is where you start your journey of becoming emotionally intelligent. So it doesn't really matter how emotionally intelligent you are right now. It's a good awareness about that particular part, but it's important that you start the step, you take the first step towards improving yourself, towards changing the things that are maybe pulling you back, and maybe focusing more on the things that you own, and focusing more on the things that help you grow. So that's all about me. That's all about my side.
Thank you, Mr. Shivam, for sharing your valuable advice and insights with us on the subject. Our friends listening are surely feeling more informed about the subject of emotional intelligence and how they can change their approach towards various things.
It's
Before
absolutely
moving
my
on
pleasure.
to the second speaker, I would like to reiterate the steps to avail the e certificate. So you are required to attend the full webinar. Once you see the thank you displayed on the screen, there will appear a link to the Google attendance form in the chat box. Click to mark your attendance and get the feedback form emailed. Fill the questionnaire that you receive on your mail for the details. Follow our page on Instagram and Facebook. If the above stated steps are followed, an e certificate will be automatically mailed to you. Our second speaker for the session is Mr. Anil Sharma. Mr. Anil is an engineer, MBA, and has 25 plus years of corporate experience in leadership positions. He strongly believes that life skills, EQ, and not just IQ, and knowledge of self management needs to be learned, which requires right mentorship and training. The same should be done in one's life sooner than on job for lasting success and happiness. Thank you for being here, Mr. Anil. Please enlighten our audience now.
Hi, good evening, everybody. This is Anil. I hope you can hear and see me. Is that so?
Yes, you're audible
And visible?
and visible, right?
Okay, thank you. First of all, I must thank Shivam for a very simple talk, but very profound at the same time, which commoners can understand, and clearly underlining, what self management or how habit change would be. I thought he did half my talk already, but I touched some parts of it, if I could do better. Now, why we talk about uh, emotional intelligence or emotional quotient now than ever before. One irony is that I was seeing that I'm a mechanical engineer myself. Shivam is an aerospace engineer, masters, in fact. You see, we took some choices in our life earlier and decided to be choose sciences which are like pure sciences, which lead you to these fields, and nothing wrong with that. I realized a little late in life, but I think Shivam has realized it very early in life that as much as intelligence quotient, so which we or intelligence, the normal version of intelligence is important, so is emotional intelligence. And that's the journey. I mean, sooner you start, better you become. And when I was young, raising my young children, I thought life should not come to them fast enough, because they should not be they should not know bad things. They should be protected. More I grow, more they grow. I realized they need to be trained, and and if a young kid in school gets trained on this, it will be far better than somebody losing a lot of years at workplace learning this from experience. And why we talk today, pandemic or the current situation has taught us one thing, that all the intellect which we have, which we individually and collectively gathered, uh, is kind of not liberating ourselves mentally in this environment. So people are stressed, people are, anxious, people are. Why? Because our mind is trained to behave in a certain way in distress. When we are uncomfortable, when we do the things which we don't normally do, it creates anxiety. When we are in an environment which is different to the environment where we have lived all our life, we are tense, we are stressed. I was reading on chat a question that I feel, why I feel nervous on an interview. You're saying this to yourself because somebody might have told this and you took it too seriously. Do five mock interviews with somebody well meaning over next 5 days. The sixth one is going to be perfect, maybe the third one or maybe the second one itself, and you overcome it. And that's when maybe it takes a little longer, maybe a few more sessions, maybe a few more days. And as Shivam said about the toothbrush example, because habits take, and I'll just talk about little science about it. So it's not taught in schools. Even at home, we do observe, we are raised in certain cultures, certain societies, certain families with some norms followed, which some are said, some are unsaid. Part of it adds to our emotional intelligence, that in generally most of the cultures, we are trained or taught not to be rude to others. We still are. Shivam did talk about how do we, anger is an emotion. And since we are human beings, anger is also natural, but it is probably most demonstrated human emotion to another human. Why? Because we don't get trained. It is, we either follows at the way our parents, maybe our teachers, maybe people we look upon react, or we are differently aligned. We don't even know the reasons. And that's why when self-awareness comes. So as I said, you're supposed to behave in a certain way, and and then you keep behaving like that even when the circumstances, the environment or situation changes. So every time you're stressed, you will be worried. Maybe is a natural thing. When something wrong happens, you get worried. When something good happens, you get overjoyed. When your country wins a football match, you are overjoyed, right? When you on Christmas, you are overjoyed, for example. And you're very sad when something wrong happens, somebody dies, somebody is very sick, who's close to us. Next slide, please. And why further? Because you know, I think a lot of physical time need to go to understand what emotional intelligence is. I'm not saying that we are expert on it. Why? Because schools and universities also only those people study emotional intelligence who take humanities, psychology, or related subjects to understand it as a um, field of study, and then they learn more about human behavior. Some of them become psychologists, psychiatric, all that, but the rest of us do not understand the theory of it. So what we learn is actually practice. Why? Because most of our 100% time in schools and universities go to get intelligence which can be measured in terms of marks, grades. How do we do 2 plus 2 is 4, and how where is east, where is west, where is north, where is south. Knowing physically things, knowing quantitatively things, knowing certain universal truths in a certain way, knowing a few hypotheses on concepts which are written generations back, and going, not that they are not important. As I said right in the beginning, I took pure sciences because they give good career and they look very logical. But you know what? Human beings are born with emotions. So logic works. Think how many times in the day you use logic and how many times you're guided by emotion. Procrastination is also an emotional reaction to me. Being lazy, being energetic is an emotional reaction in the same situation by two, three, five different people, while there is no one way of dealing with. There could be one way of dealing with actually. Don't want to too much talk about, but a very intelligent writer, Daniel Goleman, talked these five traits. Shivam has already talked about self-awareness, self-regulations. Social skills is one thing, I read in a Dale Carnegie book, feelings and actions go hand in hand. It's difficult to directly control feelings, but by controlling the action directly, we indirectly control the feeling. What does this mean? If you kind of keep reacting in a similar way, and if you have not noticed, a lot of people will be offended. They must be noticing it. When do you start noticing that, and when do you decide to work on it? The day you decide to work on that emotion, you become self-aware of how do you react in that particular situation, and then how do you regulate it, right? Now that is how you socially respond to this. For example, this is one of the examples of various things we do, right or wrong socially, and how do we kind of move from an emotionally, I would not say disturb, emotionally irrational to a rational thinking person. And how do we now, is emotion that is being emotionally intelligent doesn't mean that we cannot show emotion. No, no, it really doesn't mean that. It means that, if every time I show emotions and I don't care of what others emotions are, I mean, guess what? What kind of person we are becoming? One, we are not becoming better. Two, we are even harmful to others. Now, I mean, I'm not saying in a derogatory way. I'm saying all of us do that. All of us shout. I do shout. Still, I do. You know, has it reduced or increased? Is a measure of how much I have changed in last 5 years or for years, 5 years before that. And there are times when you have to shout. So I'm saying, more you practice, more you will know those. Just keep beyond that slide only. I have not asked for us. Yeah. Motivation. I mean, motivation is what is driving you for that change, and what is, um, and sometimes it is like this, that I ate in the morning, I ate in the afternoon. Why should I eat in the night? Well, it's a human need. Okay, you defined it that way. Some people who fast more. So it's motivation is also that kind of a thing, that you're continuously driven, or continuously driven for self improvement or bringing a change. So there is a good reason for you to remain motivated and empathize. In simple terms, empathy means, one is I know how you feel. Other is I feel how you feel because I've been in that situation. And more we put ourselves in others' shoes and think how would I like if they reacted that way, or vice versa, more empathetic we become, more visible we become that we are empathetic, and we people empathize more, and the relationships do improve. Next slide, please. And why being emotionally intelligent is important for everybody. Why you being more emotionally intelligent? Let's talk about a few irrational decisions. I just wrote self-justifying, which means I've written rational, irrational, actually. Self-justifying decision which we could take, which could be irrational financially, socially, and even deciding your career. When was it? When did you decide career based on, because your friend also wants to do that, not knowing, not comparing their strength. We keep comparing our strengths to their strengths to our weakness, or vice versa. How about taking a car which you should not have bought, buying a house or mortgage? Well, I've done all that. How did I learn? This is how I learned, right? And choosing, yeah, as I said, choosing friend, and choosing what our friend chose as a career. There is a study, there is a field of study called economic psychology or behavioral economics uh, being pursued. And it is found that not even individuals, not even professionals, even companies, businesses take emotional decisions while making a big investment to grow, to acquire another company and all, and without actually doing a lot of data analysis, but actually not analyzing a lot of hiccups which could come, and a lot of decision taken by corporates and governments and large organizations become cannot be justified just even 1 year later, that many times 2 years later, many times. Why? Because probably even with the best of analytics available, somebody used his emotion, somebody who mattered used emotion to take it. So if you and me make those mistakes, I mean, heavens are not going to fall. It's just that we can become better, we can become better than we can become our best, our better. Next slide please. And so how would you define that I'm uh, emotionally intelligent, or if I'm that person whom anybody looks as a balanced person, as an emotional? No, you look, it is not for others, first of all. So be very, very clear. So you and me will have emotions. I mean, somebody comes and slaps me on my face, maybe I have to react. Somebody shouts at me, which is totally unjustified, maybe I have to use another method, not every time smile and go away, or maybe confront people. I'm saying being emotionally intelligent is actually about us. So being self-aware, socially, we did talk about it. When do you get tested? When do you really get tested? When do your emotions get tested? When your personal effectiveness get tested? Under pressure. When going gets tough. When you're faced with an adversity, right? And then can you compare yourself how you deal with happiness? What happens to a perfectly balanced person? He'll be happy for being happy and a little sad, less sad maybe for being. I'm not putting any degree, I'm kind of generally defining. And as a person, what is the guiding emotion which is running you? Is it jealousy, comparison, or is it can I add value? Can I contribute? How do you self evaluate? How do you self evaluate what will happen to you if you did not get that raise? So can you put yourself on mute, or whosoever it is, and uh, and then how would it be? It's for yourself. Can we go to the next slide? And how do you, a lot of people talk to me, I'm not as practical, I'm very friendly, I'm very social. Yeah, I mean, is being practical a measure of it? Is it a scale? And how do you define being practical? So, something which, if somebody appears rude to you because he's practical, was it right or wrong? What happens when you do the same? So, yeah, I mean, being emotionally intelligent and being enhancing your emotional quotient also means you are actually becoming more practical, because you are hurting people around. If you are abusing, every time you get an abuse you give it back, I mean, you will get more of it. So it's practical even for you not to get into a negative emotion, because you are responding in a right way in a given situation. So less people are reacting to what you say, which means they are agreeing to you. What happens? So when will it be tested? What happens when somebody disagrees with you? Yeah, it is. Now then, what would you do normally? What do you think is ideal? You can plot it for yourself. What happens when you don't get what you expect? Like I said, a raise or a promotion or grades. How do you react to it? Would you tell that that teacher is very bad because she doesn't like my face? because my boss is bad, because his boss is bad, because the company is bad, or the government is not listening? Or would you do a little bit of self evaluation that actually you can improve? Because none of us is complete. How can we? This journey will continue till we all are. So can we get into that much that we see and we really work on it? If we lack a skill, we enhance the skill. If we are poor on communication, we improve that. If we are poor on making reports and that is our job, can we become better? Can we do it first time right? I don't know. I mean, these are some of the situational examples. How would you react in a given situation? What happens uh, when you take a financial decision? What emotion was driving it? Was it a need? Was it a pleasure, or was it a long term happiness? So, I mean, how can you make those choices, right? So, and if you could go to the next slide, if it is left. Yeah. So, just before that. So, what I would talk is that, if you benchmark yourself for being who you are, wherever you are, and honestly, there is no shame. You're not telling anybody. You can get a mentor, you can get somebody to coach you that this process could become faster. Uh, if you can get qualified mentoring, I personally believe mentoring and key relationships where you spend most of your time shape you the person you become. So you plot where you are today and what kind of behavior you want to have. Who do you know who reacts very correctly in that given situation? Then from moving from this point A to that point B is your journey to becoming better. And then Shivam did talk about habits. So they change. And since I've been studying science, I always try to find, okay, why habit? So a lot of theories, 21 days habits change. Why 21 days? Globally, it is said. And I also read 30 days. Somewhere I also read 45 days. Why it is said like so? So then I read a book called uh, who you are and what you really want by Shad Hamstetter. And he says in his book, there is a chemistry and a physics. There is in your brain there are cells and there are pathways, the neuron pathways, which determine your reaction to a situation. So what happens? First, you have to think what you have to do differently. Okay, then you have to uh, take a right step in that direction on a daily basis for next 21 to 30 days. So what happened? Your habit changes because actual neuron pathway in your brain changes because of the chemical reaction of these change in behavior you are driving intentionally. So what happened? Your decision to change plots where you are and where you want to be. That decision drives you to change your habit. Now, to change your habit, you have to map your habit on a daily or monitor your habit on a daily basis. What do a lot of people do? If you wearing your watch on the left hand side, you start wearing on the right hand side because every time you look for time, you see, oh, right, and then you remember you want to change that habit. What happens 30 days later? That habit changes if it is a daily deliberate action taken. So that was about why habits are important, what are you made of, and what do you keep telling yourself, guys? I did okay. In between, there was some noise, and I was talking what drives you. Is it fear? It is insecurity. It is jealousy. It is some negative emotion, some bad. I think we can start afresh and we can always press hit refresh button, and that's the name of the book by CEO of Microsoft which I read. And he talks a lot about empathy, and he says what made him. And he also says in that book, Microsoft ever since he took over worked on empathy more as an organization and then down to people, and it has grown in last 5 years. I don't know how many times, and they've gone into our artificial intelligence, machine learning, all that. They started much before, but they actually started getting right results. So I'm saying the same process you could take. And what you say to yourself, what you want to say about yourself, what you want others to say about you, not that you will be pleased, but you actually become better, more at peace with yourself, will determine how you are headed forward. And you're focused on being more self-aware, emotionally stronger, maybe, or being more intelligent about your emotions is going to do a great deal in the process. Thank you so much. It's been great talking to you guys.
Thank you so much, Mr. Anil, for sharing your knowledge and expertise on the subject with us. There were many points to learn and take away from your talk. Now, we would like to proceed to the Q&A session. So the audience has a lot of questions for our speakers and we would like to pick up some. The first question of the evening is by Hamdullah. Sometimes we can't control our emotions and anger. Please let me know how should I control it. Mr. Shivam, can you please shed some light on this?
Surely. I think that's something that we all have trouble dealing with. So I think anger, the kind of emotion that anger really is, it has a negative consequence to it, and it ends up doing things to us we might not actually like or want, for that matter. So there's something that I often tell my clients. There's something that I often tell my clients to practice. So what really happens when you are angry? You want to express it. You want to talk about that particular part. And why do you feel angry, for that matter? What is the first thing that you feel when you feel angry? It's that you feel that someone out there is saying things that I don't believe in. Someone out there is doing things that I don't believe in. I don't actually appreciate that. But yet they're doing that, yet they're saying that. That makes us feel defensive about our own beliefs. And that makes us question our own beliefs. And in turn, we get angry. We get protective of our own beliefs. And this is why we want to shout at them. This is why we want to tell them that no, you're wrong, and yes, I'm right. So this is a long way term to that. The first thing that I'm telling you is a long term way to actually get rid of anger. It is by accepting people, accepting yourself, and understanding that whatever people say is a representative of what they are and who they are in person, and not a question mark on your childhood or on your belief. That only means that they are trying to do things in a particular manner, and that doesn't raise a question mark on your personality. Now, talking about the short term aspect of how you can deal with anger, the one thing that actually helps a lot is trying to take a few deep breaths. So whenever you're feeling angry, the moment you feel angry about any particular thing, for that matter, the in the very first moment of anger, you would see that a lot of your body language changes. You would see that your hands, maybe your fist may be closed, or you may have a aggressive body language, aggressive facial expressions, or you might have a closed body language. Try to understand those body language and try to change that. First of all, try to maybe open your fists, try to maybe take a few deep breaths, and try to relax, maybe sit under the fan or something, drink a water or something, or just take a walk. So you have to deviate your mind. You have to deviate your mind from feeling those particular things, having those particular set of reactions, because your mind is used to doing those things whenever it feels angry. But if you build up the habit of changing how you react initially, those change in reactions would become a habit eventually after 10, 15, 20 days. And then you'd be able to control that anger in a much, much better manner. So initially, whenever you're feeling angry, just remind yourself to take a few deep breaths. Before telling them what's wrong, take a few deep breaths. And once you've taken a few deep breaths, once you feel much more calmer, then talk to them about what made you feel angry. Because it's important that you talk to them about that. Because if we don't talk about what made you feel angry, the trigger would still remain the same. So if you might have avoided getting angry at this particular point, but eventually over the period of time, maybe tomorrow and day after tomorrow, the same thing could happen, and you would again feel angry. So it's important that you actually work upon and talk upon those particular things so that you're able to understand things in a better way and reduce anger in a much easier manner.
Thank you, Mr. Shivam. Those were some very helpful points. So the next question is by Nancy. How to always be positive in a negative situation? Mr. Anil, what are your thoughts on this?
Uh, I'm mean, look, it's a choice. You have to make, and why. So what happens in a negative situation? What is it doing to you today? So I believe that, what do you call a negative situation? I think define it clearly. What is that negative situation? Is it an argumentative situation? Is it that somebody is finding faults in you? Is it that it is so? Why don't you do kind of a little bit of self analysis, because we are not in your situation. So, but yeah, we've been there. And so there are two, three, four things, sometimes you are in a negative situation with similar set of people, because either the relationship is not too good, or the context of the relationship is not good, which means that while you love doing what you are doing, but you're not happy in that environment, whether it is family, friends, school, university, or organization where you work. Or, and because you spend most of your time in that environment, you feel that all the time the situation is similar. So there is some work. So the work is that putting it together on what is causing that. It, and you don't have to blame yourself for it or something, but yes, you have to do that much introspection, that you need to identify what you can do positive about it. And I would say that even if you are wrong, even if you are right and the other person is wrong, sometimes how do you deal with people, which is again a learned skill. It will not come natural. Your natural reaction will remain what it is today. Another thing is that, coming to this webinar, or reading a book once, is developing a right thought in your mind, and that is, or a purpose of the webinar is achieved. If 100 and what 150 odd people at the moment are really listening to this and think that they need to do better, it's a good beginning, I would say. However, this may not be enough, and it is a learned behavior. You would need either to create an environment yourself, or help, uh, and you should reach out to somebody who could, and otherwise write to these guys at MentorMitr. So what I mean, why I said this, because many a times we listen to something and say, oh yes, he is right, this is absolutely the negative situation, this is how it is with me, and I need to change this, and we leave it. Next morning the day starts, is gone. So I'm saying that identify, define your situation clearly, note the changes you need to make, and sometimes you need to leave that organization actually. That's what I would say. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that insight, Mr. Anil. The next question is by Gansham. How to increase emotional intelligence to improve leadership qualities? Can you please answer this question, Mr. Shivam?
Yeah, sure. I think, like we discussed before as well, that emotional intelligence has four different traits. The first one is self awareness, the second one is self management, the third one is relationship management, and the fourth one is social awareness. And this is where, of the part of social awareness, this is where the leadership skills actually matter a lot as well. Because when you are a good leader, you tend to think more of the people. So you're not the kind of leader who actually serves from behind, who actually leads from behind, is actually termed as a good leader, who is able to understand their teammates, who is able to understand the people he's working with, so that they are able to actually work on things, we are able to lead them with an example, and with a way that actually contributes, that actually helps them in every different manner. So it's important for them to be able to emotionally intelligent, to be able to find that source of empathy, that find a source of understanding the emotions of each of their employees, each of their participants. Because uh, at any particular point of the, and this thing you might have seen in your own school and colleges as well, that at any point of time when you were in school and the teacher starts teaching about a particular subject, let's say teacher is talking about science or geography or history, for any particular subject for that matter. Now all the students, let's say there are 50 or 60 students in that particular classroom. Now all the students might not be having the same framework of mind, might not be having the same clarity of mind at that particular point of time. But yet the teacher would talk in their own fashion, in their own way, and all the students have to understand that in their own particular manner. That means that whatever the teacher is saying, someone would grasp it, someone would not. For someone to become a good leader or just a good teacher, they have to understand the mindset of all the people. They have to understand the problems that normal people can actually face. And that is where emotional intelligence and empathy can definitely come into picture. And understanding to work upon emotional intelligence, understanding to work upon your emotions as well, is always the first step, like I always discuss about. That if you start working on your own emotions, it would automatically become much easier for you to be able to understand others' emotions. If you're clueless about your own emotions, you would always have a hard time trying to figure out what others are thinking, what others are doing. So, as a leader, as a good leader, it's very much important to develop that. And I think it's important to seek help as well at times. There are times there are leaders, there are coaches, there are therapists, there are many other people who are involved in this particular place where they can help you to understand your aspects, your own beliefs, and help you develop that emotional intelligence. It's important to seek help, I believe, at that particular point of time to be able to work about that. That's it from my side. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Shivam. Our next question is by Sarah. How to control emotions in decision making? Mr. Anil, can you please respond to this question?
So, uh, what is driving the decision is important. Sometimes actually you need to be very emotional to take a decision, which means that if you see somebody in distress and somebody needs your help, you don't have to think too much if you can. I mean, if you're if giving somebody medical care, giving somebody helping somebody financially, who cannot help himself and there is no other way for him, I don't think uh, it has to be very logical decision, for example. So uh, yeah, so but there are many more situations than this where you need to be rational with your decision, which means that uh, you have time to react, to take that decision. Two, uh, there are some outcomes you want. Now hear this out, that there are some outcomes you want as a result of that decision. What are those outcomes? So those could be different. So for business, they are business outcomes. There are a few things which you do for family, then the outcomes are social. Then there are a few decisions which you take for pleasure, travel, a lot of travel decisions, a lot of material acquisition decisions are taken for pleasure, I would say, or having some time together. So, I mean, in those are financial decisions in another way. A lot of business decisions are fun. So I believe that the outcomes you need as a result of those decisions need to be considered once, and then those decisions need to be taken. I hope that answers it, because the decisions every day you make decisions. You have to get up at 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock is also a decision. You have to sleep early or late is also a decision. That depends upon what are you doing on those hours. So how do you spend your time, for example, is a decision too. On television, on with friends, on phone, on chat, on screen. So I'm saying then the decisions from those macro decisions to be small decisions like this, check, and all of this can be mapped. So that's what I would say. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Anil. That was very helpful. So, for the last question of the evening, the question is by Dr. A. Prakash. And the question is, what are the effects of emotion on the brain? So, Mr. Anil and Mr. Shivam, can you please shed some insight into this?
Certainly. I think, would Mr. Anil want to go first or can I answer?
You go ahead. Sure.
All right. Yeah. So emotions, like we discuss, it not only has impact, it has definitely has some very powerful impact on the brain, on the mind. But the funny and the interesting part is that it also has a very important impact on our body as well, that we are very much unaware of. Because as a matter of fact, we know that emotions make us feel a particular manner. Emotions make us feel happy, emotions make us feel sad, emotions make us feel anxious, and those things for that matter. You feel happy, you feel sad. So for example, if you're under deep stress, you are in fear for that particular thing, so your brain would release a lot of cortisol, the stress hormone, and you would feel in that particular manner. So whenever you're feeling happy, your brain would release dopamine, you would feel happy for that matter. Or whenever you're in love, your brain would release a lot of oxytocin, that was the hug hormone, so your brain would feel warmer and much more relaxed. So this is the impact of emotions, the impact of emotion on your brain. But about the impact of emotions on your brain, you can't actually see that by yourself, right? You cannot see that, okay, this is the kind of hormone my brain is releasing. You cannot know that. But what you can see and what you can know is the impact of emotions on your body. And this is something you see all by yourself. In fact, I want you to look at that right now. When you're seeing this video, if you're seeing this video right now, just take a look at your body language. Is your body language closed or is your body language open right now? Are you just sitting with your shoulders very wide and narrow, or you're sitting with your shoulders broad? That actually tells a lot about the kind of emotion you're feeling at this particular moment. So if you're feeling sitting with your shoulders very broad and very uptight, that means you're feeling very much confident. But if you are sitting with your shoulders very narrow and in a very lazy manner, maybe you are feeling bored and you just want it to end. But I just definitely hope that this is not the case. But anyway, if that's the case, try to sit with your shoulders up tight and with your shoulders very much broad. And even that is one simple example. Also, the another example: whenever you feel anxious, whenever you feel angry, you might have seen that we get our hands sweaty, our palms become sweaty, our feet become numb, or we constantly try to we fall short of breath, and many other things happen to us. So this is a physical reaction of our anxiety. So there are certain things, there are certain ways our body chooses to tell us that this is what your emotions are trying to tell you. This is what your emotions is trying to tell you as a matter of fact of your body language changes or physical sensations in your body. So this is our body and mind is constantly giving us indication of what you're feeling at this particular moment. But we often choose to ignore that. And the moment you start being aware of those particular things, you'll be able to regulate those emotions. You'll be able to uh, react to those emotions in a much better manner. So I think understanding those emotions definitely plays a very important role. That's it from my side.
Yeah, I mean, uh, probably a doctor can explain this uh, in much more detail. But yeah, I mean, we do see ourselves, and a lot of what happens to us, how we think, and how we react to a particular situation, one is guided by the brain and is impacted by the brain. Uh, so there are a lot of processes going on. But yeah, we do hear of people under extreme stress uh, going for actual physical damage to the brain and heart. Which is a byproduct of hypertension, blah blah blah, which has to, of course, not only do deal with emotions. It is also to do with the lifestyle which you're leading, which could be a lot of physical things you do. But yes, it is both. So it does affect, it could affect the brain. uh, I would just say this much. Shivam, I have a question. I saw a question on chat on if you could answer the difference between sympathy and empathy for the audience. Because I saw that on chat
So
repeatedly.
yeah, surely, I'd love to do that. So generally, when you talk about the sympathy, the whole idea of sympathy, it is basically able to feel sorrowful for someone. You feel that, okay, that something bad happened to you. I feel sad for you. I feel bad for you. That is a very simple example of sympathy. That I feel sad for you. I feel bad for you. While empathy is all about understanding that they are just going through a bad time, and you're able to feel what they are feeling. You're able to understand that, okay, they're feeling a particular manner, and there's nothing wrong to feel that particular manner. There's nothing wrong to for them to feel this particular way. So you're able to understand their emotions, you're able to understand why they're feeling that particular manner, and then you're not sympathizing with them, You're just being aware and understanding of them. So that's a very basic difference between empathy and sympathy. And we must always strive to work on our empathic levels rather than on a sympathy, because that's when we actually work upon understanding people.
Yeah, and MentorMitr team just texted me that there are people who've been repetitively to the webinars. They have written on the text earlier. They have requested me to use the platform to ask people for sending their written or video testimonies to MentorMitr team. Thank you very much. It's been great talking to all.
Thank you so much, Mr. Shivam and Mr. Anil. That was very interesting. And I would like to thank both of our speakers as well as the audience for giving us your time and your support. Thank you for attending and engaging in today's session with us. Lastly, I would like to repeat the steps to avail the e certificate. You are required to attend the full webinar. Once you see "Thank you" displayed on the screen, there will appear a link to a Google Attendance form in the chat box. Click to mark your attendance and get the feedback form emailed. Fill the questionnaire that you receive on your mail for the details. Follow our page on Instagram and Facebook. If the above steps are followed, the e certificate will automatically be mailed to you. You can contact us through any of the above mentioned platforms with your questions, feedback, and suggestions. Hope to see you all next Sunday.